They left humanity to die, now it's payback time. Order. Order in the Grand Council chamber. High Counselor Venara's voice boomed through the massive crystalline dome. Her 4 tentacles waved in practiced authority, making the golden chains of her office jingle like expensive wind chimes. I shifted in my seat, attempting to find a comfortable position on these ridiculously ornate chairs. Who designed these things anyway? Probably some Centaurian with their triple-jointed spine. As Admiral of the Galactic Federation's 7th Fleet, I, Krell-Tix, deserved better than developing back problems during yet another tedious council meeting. We gather today to address the primitive species designation 3371C, self-named humans, and their request for assistance. Venara announced, pronouncing humans as if it were a particularly nasty space virus. Trade Minister Bax Ol, a blob of shimmering purple gel in an anti-gravity containment field, burbled with barely contained amusement. These humans, they haven't even mastered basic antimatter containment, and they dare petition the Grand Council. Please, enlighten us about their situation, Venara said, gesturing to the holographic display in the center of the chamber. The image showed a blue-green planet, quite unremarkable, except for the massive asteroid headed straight for it. Technical data scrolled past, but I already knew the numbers. Impact in 47 planetary rotations. Extinction level event. Total elimination of approximately 99.9% of all life forms. The humans have detected the asteroid and calculated its trajectory. The science minister droned, his beak clicking with each word. They've requested our intervention, citing the Protection of Emerging Species Act, subsection 7, paragraph. Yes, Venara interrupted, her tentacles curling with impatience. We're all familiar with the legislation. What's their technological status? They've achieved nuclear fission, primitive spaceflight, and global digital communications. Their most advanced AI can barely beat them at board games. The science minister projected a series of images: clunky rockets, bulky computers, and vehicles still running on fossil fuels. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Even I had to admit, it was pretty amusing. These humans were still using smartphones when most species had evolved past the need for external communication devices. And what do they offer in exchange for our help? Trade Minister Bax Ol's containment field rippled with interest. Access to their entertainment media and something called pizza, the science minister replied, triggering another wave of laughter. I leaned forward, my antennae twitching. Pizza. Some form of circular nutrient disk covered in processed organic matter, the science minister explained, his beak twisting in disgust. Venara raised 2 tentacles for silence. The law is clear. We are only required to intervene if a species has achieved specific technological benchmarks. The humans fall short in 47 out of 50 categories. But they will die, I felt compelled to point out, though I kept my tone carefully neutral. Politics in the Grand Council was a dangerous game. Natural selection. Admiral Krell-Tix Venara replied smoothly. If they were meant to survive, they would have developed the necessary technology. We cannot interfere with the natural order of evolution. The vote was quick and unanimous. Earth would be left to its fate. As council members filed out, I heard snippets of their conversations. Did you see their primitive vehicles? Still using wheels. And their space program. Throwing themselves into orbit with controlled explosions. At least we won't have to hear about pizza again. I lingered in my uncomfortable chair, watching Earth's hologram slowly rotate. Something about this didn't sit right with me, but I couldn't put my claw on it. Maybe it was the way they'd tried to save themselves with such primitive tools. Maybe it was their audacity in offering pizza as a trade good. Admiral Venara's voice interrupted my thoughts. The next session begins shortly. We're discussing the proper protocol for tea ceremonies with the Silicon Hive mind. I stood, my back cracking in protest. As I walked out, I took one last look at the hologram of Earth. Good luck, humans, I muttered. You're going to need it. Little did I know that luck had nothing to do with what came next. 50 years later. Admiral Krell-Tix, your presence is required in the Emergency Response Center. I groaned, my antennae drooping with exhaustion. Another crisis? I just finished dealing with a 3-day diplomatic incident involving a quantum jellyfish and a misplaced ham sandwich. What is it this time? Sir, we've lost contact with Trading Outpost 47. Probably those space pirates again, I muttered, heading for the transport tube. They're getting bolder every cycle. The emergency response center was chaos when I arrived. Screens flickered with data, analysts scurried about like startled Martian mice, and in the center of it all stood Captain Nexus, looking like she'd just swallowed a sour quantum crystal. Report, I barked, settling into my command chair. At least this one was ergonomic. Sir, it wasn't pirates, Nexus said, her bioluminescent spots pulsing with anxiety. The outpost had just vanished, along with 3 others in the same sector. I straightened up. Vanished? Outposts don't just vanish. These did. No debris, no distress signals, no energy signatures. They're just gone. Show me the sector, I commanded. The holographic display sprang to life, showing a region of space near Oh No. That's the Sol system, I said quietly. The same system we'd abandoned half a century ago. The same system where we'd left a primitive species to die. Sir, there's more, Nexus said, pulling up another display. We're detecting unusual energy readings from Earth. Earth. That rock should be a crater-filled wasteland by now. Perhaps you should see for yourself, she suggested, expanding the image. I nearly fell out of my chair. Instead of a devastated planet, Earth looked different. The continents were the same, but massive geometric structures dotted the surface, gleaming with an energy signature I'd never seen before. Send a probe, I ordered. We tried. 3 of them. They all disappeared the moment they entered the atmosphere. Perfect. Just perfect. Fine. Prepare my ship. I'll go myself. Sir, protocol dictates. Protocol can kiss my thorax, I snapped. Something weird is happening, and I want to know what. The journey to Earth took 3 days, during which I reviewed all our old files on humanity. The primitive creatures we'd dismissed so easily, left to die, because they couldn't even manage basic antimatter containment. The memory made my scales itch with something that felt suspiciously like guilt. As we approached Earth orbit, a transmission cut through our communications. Galactic Federation vessel. This is Earth Defense Command. State your purpose. I nearly choked on my nutrition paste. The voice spoke perfect galactic standard, with better pronunciation than half the council members. This is Admiral Krell Tix of the Galactic Federation. We've detected unusual energy signatures and... Ah, Admiral Krell Tix, the voice turned cheerful, which somehow made it more terrifying. We've been expecting you. Please proceed to the following coordinates for docking. A massive station materialized in front of us. Just appeared out of nowhere. One moment empty space, the next moment there was a structure larger than our biggest battlecruiser, humming with that strange energy. Where did that? Oh, this old thing, the voice sounded amused. Just a little something we whipped up while we were hiding underground from that extinction level event. You remember that, don't you, Admiral? The council meeting? The vote? Something about pizza. My throat went dry. You survived. We did more than survive, Admiral. We thrived. Nothing motivates human innovation quite like spite. Would you like a tour? We've even perfected that pizza you were so curious about. As our ship was guided into a docking bay that seemed to defy several laws of physics, I realized the Federation had made a terrible, terrible mistake. We'd assumed the asteroid would finish off humanity. Instead, we'd just made them angry, and apparently they'd spent the last 50 years getting even. The docking bay doors closed behind us with a sound that felt distinctly like the punchline to a cosmic joke, one that the Federation really wasn't going to enjoy. Welcome to New Earth, Admiral, the voice said cheerfully. We have so much to show you. Starting with our new antimatter containment systems, we think you'll find them quite advanced. Oh, and fair warning, the pizza is hot. The High Council chamber looked different now. Gone were the smug faces and casual dismissals. Instead, I watched various council members fidget, sweat, and in the case of Trade Minister Baxol, ripple with such anxiety that his containment field kept glitching. 17 trade routes disrupted. 4 outposts vanished. Cargo ships reporting mysterious malfunctions. Venara's tentacles weren't jingling elegantly anymore, they were practically tied in knots. And now this. The holographic display showed the latest incident. A luxury cruise liner, carrying some of the wealthiest beings in the galaxy, had found itself suddenly transported into the orbit of a gas giant. The passengers were unharmed but thoroughly rattled, especially since their ship's computer was now only capable of playing something called Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up on endless repeat. "The humans are toying with us," I said, trying to keep the amusement out of my voice. "After my visit to Earth, I can confirm their technological capabilities far exceed our previous assessments." But how the science minister's beak was clicking so fast it sounded like a malfunctioning probability calculator. They were primitive. They were using internal combustion engines. "That was 50 years ago," I reminded him. "They've been busy doing what Venara demanded." Getting even a new voice answered. The council chamber's security systems went haywire as a figure simply appeared in the center of the room. A human female in a sleek black uniform, her dark skin contrasting with striking silver hair tied back in complex braids. "I am Commander Alexandra Blackwood of the Earth Defense Force," she announced, casually leaning against the holographic projector as if she'd been invited to afternoon tea. "And we've been meaning to thank you all for your hospitality 50 years ago." The chamber erupted in chaos. Security forces materialized, weapons drawn. Blackwood didn't even blink. "Oh please," she said, waving her hand. All the weapons turned into what appeared to be rubber toys that squeaked when squeezed. "Let's be civil about this." I found myself fighting back a laugh. The mighty Galactic Federation security forces, armed with squeaky toys. The humans had definitely developed a flair for the dramatic. "What do you want?" Venara asked, trying to maintain her dignity while her security detail stared in bewilderment at their squeaking weapons. "Want?" Blackwood raised an eyebrow. "We don't want anything. We're just returning the favor. You showed us exactly where we stood in the galactic community. Now we're showing you where you stand in terms of technological advancement." She turned to me. "Admiral Krell Tix, I believe you've been tasked with investigating our activities." I nodded, noticing how every council member suddenly found the ceiling fascinating. "Excellent. You'll be our point of contact then. Try to keep up." She winked at me, then turned back to the council. "Oh, and fair warning, we're just getting started. Those trade route disruptions, consider them a warm-up exercise." "Is that a threat?" the science minister squawked. "Not at all," Blackwood smiled. "It's a courtesy notice. After all, we wouldn't want to be accused of being primitive in our diplomatic communications." Reports started flooding in from across the galaxy, ships vanishing and reappearing in impossible locations, entire fleets finding their navigation systems redirected to something called Disney World, space stations reporting that their artificial gravity now worked sideways. "This is an act of war," Venara declared. "No," Blackwood corrected her. "This is an act of education. Lesson 1, never underestimate humanity. Lesson 2, karma has a wicked sense of humor. Lesson 3, she paused, checking a device on her wrist. "Well, you'll find out about lesson 3 in about 10 seconds. Right on cue, every piece of technology in the council chamber transformed into various Earth musical instruments. Venara's gravity throne became a grand piano. The holographic projector turned into a drum set. Even my datapad became a tiny violin. "We've established a new diplomatic office in the Orion Arm," Blackwood continued, seemingly oblivious to the science minister, who was now sitting on a tuba. "Admiral Krell Tix knows where to find us. We look forward to more productive discussions about humanity's place in the galactic community." She started to fade away, then paused. "Oh, and Minister Baxol, your containment field is about to turn into a disco ball. I'd suggest moving 3 meters to the left." After she vanished, we sat in stunned silence, surrounded by musical instruments, while Baxol's containment field indeed transformed into a spinning disco ball, sending sparkles of light across the chamber. Admiral Venara said weakly, her tentacles draped over the piano keys. "You'll handle the investigations." "Of course," I replied, tucking my violin datapad into my pocket. "Though I should warn you, based on what I've seen of Earth's capabilities, we might want to prepare for more surprises." As if on cue, every musical instrument began playing that Rick Astley song in perfect harmony. I had to admit, humans had really mastered the art of making a point. And somewhere in the back of my mind, a treacherous thought was forming. I was starting to root for them. The Seventh Fleet's finest ships spread across the Carina Nebula like diamonds scattered on black velvet. And I, Admiral Krell Tix, was about to lose another one. "Target vessel spotted in Sector 7," Captain Nexus announced, her bioluminescent spots flashing with excitement. "Don't bother," I sighed, watching the sleek human vessel dart between asteroids. "They're just going to." The ship vanished. "Do that," I finished, slumping in my command chair. "Any bets on where they'll pop up next?" "Sir, they're behind us." Of course they were. The human ship, a beautiful piece of engineering they called the Thunderchild, had materialized directly in our wake. Its silver hull seemed to ripple like water, a side effect of their quantum phase technology that still gave our science teams headaches. "Incoming transmission," Nexus reported. The view screen lit up with Commander Alexandra Blackwood's grinning face. "Good morning, Admiral. Lovely day for a chase, isn't it?" "Commander," I growled, trying to maintain my dignity. "This is the 4th time this week." "5th, actually. You were unconscious for one of them. That business with the space squid, remember?" I did remember. Somehow, the humans had reprogrammed an entire pod of space squids to perform synchronized swimming routines. The resulting spectacle had distracted my crew long enough for 3 human ships to slip past our blockade. "This has to stop," I said, trying to sound authoritative. "The Council demands." "The Council demands lots of things," Blackwood interrupted. "But they've yet to catch us making those demands. Speaking of which..." The Thunderchild vanished again. This time, it reappeared upside down relative to our position, practically dancing through the asteroid field. "All ships, pursue that vessel," I ordered, knowing it was futile. My fleet accelerated, weaving through the asteroid field with all the grace of drunken space whales. "Sir, they're heading for the dense zone." The dense zone was a particularly treacherous section of the asteroid field, where the rocks were packed tighter than politicians at a free buffet. No sane pilot would. The Thunderchild plunged straight into it. "They're insane," Nexus whispered. "No," I corrected her, watching the human ship execute a series of impossible maneuvers. "They're showing off." The Thunderchild spun between asteroids that should have crushed it, its quantum phase technology allowing it to partially exist in multiple dimensions at once. My fleet's attempts to follow resulted in 3 ships getting their paint scratched and 1 accidentally shooting itself with its own deflected laser blast. Sir, Nexus called out. "They're transmitting music." The sound of ancient Earth guitars filled our bridge. Something about being the champions of the world. "Status report," I demanded, trying to ignore the oddly catchy tune. 2 ships reporting minor damage, 1 stuck in reverse. "And the Starbreaker is, sir. The Starbreaker is reporting that all its weapons have been transformed into bubble blowers." I pinched the bridge of my snout. Bubble blowers. Right on cue, our flagship was surrounded by iridescent spheres that refused to pop and smelled suspiciously like strawberries. Blackwood's face appeared on our screen again. "Having fun yet, Admiral?" "This is not a game, Commander." "Isn't it?" She raised an eyebrow. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks an awful lot like hide and seek, with quantum physics and bubbles." Another human ship materialized on our sensors, then another. The Thunderchild's escort vessels had arrived, their names proudly displayed on their hulls. Karma's payback, and sorry not sorry. 3 targets, Nexus announced. "Moving to intercept." "Belay that," I ordered. "They're just going to." All 3 ships vanished simultaneously. When they reappeared, they had somehow arranged themselves into a smiley face formation relative to our position. You know, Blackwood said conversationally, we could do this all day. Our quantum phase drives don't even need recharging anymore. Would you like to see what happens when we phase through a sun? You wouldn't dare. Remember that luxury cruise liner we redirected? That was just us testing the temperature tolerances. We can phase entire ships through stellar matter now. Want a demonstration? I stared at the screen, finally understanding. Every chase, every encounter, every seemingly playful demonstration, they weren't just toying with us. They were teaching us. Stand down, I ordered my fleet. Sir Nexus looked confused. Stand down, I repeated. Commander Blackwood, I believe it's time we had a proper conversation about humanity's capabilities. Wonderful, Blackwood clapped her hands. I knew you'd catch on eventually. Your office has already been quantum shifted to our nearest facility. Don't worry about transport, you're already there. I looked around. My bridge was exactly the same, except now it was docked inside a massive human space station that definitely hadn't been there a second ago. How did you? Quantum entanglement on a macro scale, Blackwood explained. We can essentially copy and paste space-time now. Your bridge is simultaneously here and with your fleet. Schrödinger would have loved it. And the bubbles. Just for fun. Although she checked her watch. They should be changing color right about. The strawberry-scented bubbles surrounding my ship shifted through every color of the rainbow, eventually settling into patterns that spelled out "You've been pranked" in 20 different alien languages. Commander, I said slowly, I believe I owe humanity an apology. Oh, Admiral, she grinned, you have no idea how right you are. Now, would you like to see what else we've been working on? Fair warning, it involves teaching quantum physics to those space squids. For the first time since this chase began, I felt myself smile. Humanity hadn't just survived our betrayal, they'd turned it into an art form. And somehow, I had a feeling this was just the beginning of a very interesting revolution in galactic politics. The bubbles around my ship formed a new message: lesson 4, revenge is best served with style. If someone had told me 50 years ago that I'd be standing in an underground human city, drinking something called a milkshake while watching quantum computers solve equations that made our best mathematicians cry, I would have recommended immediate psychological evaluation. Yet here I was, following Commander Blackwood through corridors that somehow existed in 4 dimensions at once. This is Sanctuary 1, she explained, gesturing to the sprawling metropolis below our observation deck. Our first underground city. When the asteroid hit, we had 47 of these ready. The city stretched for miles, a testament to human engineering. Buildings spiraled in geometrically impossible ways, transport tubes pulsed with quantum energy, and in the center, a massive artificial sun provided perfect lighting. You built all this in 50 days, I asked, my antennae twitching in disbelief. Actually, we built it in 30, Blackwood corrected. We spent the other 20 creating backup sites on Mars and Europa, just in case. A group of children ran past us, playing with what looked like pet quantum anomalies. One of the anomalies hiccuped, temporarily turning all nearby metal objects into butterflies. Don't worry, Blackwood assured me, as my datapad fluttered away. The effects are temporary, usually. We entered a massive chamber where scientists worked on projects that made my head spin. One team was teaching abstract mathematics to a group of dolphins. Another was building what appeared to be a small universe in a coffee cup. Is that? Oh, the universe in a cup? That's just the break room entertainment. You should see what we're doing in the main labs. She led me to a conference room where several human leaders waited. I recognized them from various incident reports: Director Emma Thorne, whose hobby was redesigning the laws of physics; General Marcus Price, who once made an entire Federation battle fleet dance the Macarena; and Professor James Sullivan, who kept trying to explain quantum mechanics using cat memes. Admiral Kreltik's Director Thorne greeted me. Welcome to the real Earth. The real Earth, I repeated, watching a scientist outside accidentally turn gravity into jazz music, as opposed to. The surface is mainly for show now, General Price explained. We keep some cities up there to maintain appearances. The real action is underground. And in about 17 parallel dimensions, Professor Sullivan added, while his coffee cup universe developed intelligent life. Why show me all this, I asked. Blackwood exchanged glances with her colleagues. Because you're different, Admiral. You've been watching us, studying us. And unlike the rest of the Council, you're starting to understand. Understand what? That humanity's greatest asset isn't our technology, Director Thorne said. It's our spite. When the Council abandoned us, General Price continued, they didn't just leave us to die. They gave us something far more powerful, a point to prove. The asteroid was the best thing that could have happened to us, Professor Sullivan grinned. Nothing motivates human innovation quite like billions of people simultaneously saying, watch this. They showed me their archives. Footage of humans working around the clock, building underground cities while the asteroid approached. Records of breakthrough after breakthrough, each one fueled by a combination of desperation, determination, and the burning desire to prove the Federation wrong. We could have stopped the asteroid, Blackwood revealed. We figured out how about 2 days before impact. But by then, we had a better idea. You let it hit, I realized. So the Federation would think you were gone. Giving us 50 years of uninterrupted development time, Director Thorne nodded. Time we used to master quantum physics, dimensional engineering, and about 600 other fields your scientists haven't even dreamed of yet. Also, General Price added, we really wanted to see the look on the Council's faces when we came back. A screen showed the current surface of Earth, where massive structures stored enough energy to power 1,000 galaxies. Another displayed their defense systems, capable of redirecting entire solar systems if necessary. So now what, I asked, watching a team of scientists teach quantum entanglement to a group of particularly enthusiastic squirrels. Now, Blackwood smiled, we change everything. The Federation needs a wake-up call. They need to understand that dismissing less advanced species isn't just morally wrong, it's strategically idiotic. And you want me to help? You're already helping, Admiral. Every report you filed about our capabilities has been pushing the Council toward one inescapable conclusion: they messed up. Spectacularly. I looked around at this impossible city, at the humans who had turned abandonment into advancement, defeat into triumph. My antennae drooped in shame. On behalf of the Federation, I apologize for. Oh, don't apologize yet, Blackwood interrupted. Wait until you see what we have planned for the next Council meeting. Let's just say it involves teaching quantum tunneling to those space squids we mentioned earlier. As if on cue, a quantum-enhanced space squid floated past the window, solving complex mathematical equations by interpretive dance. I couldn't help but laugh. The Federation had tried to write humanity's obituary. Instead, we'd given them 50 years to write the greatest comeback story in galactic history. And they weren't done yet, not by a long shot. The Grand Council chamber hadn't changed in 50 years. Same ornate architecture, same uncomfortable chairs, same air of superiority. But today was different. Today, humanity was coming to claim their seat at the table. I sat at my usual spot, trying not to smile as council members filed in. They had no idea what was about to happen. High Counselor Van Era's tentacles were already twitching nervously, and Trade Minister Baxol's containment field was rippling with anxiety. This emergency session will come to order, Van Era announced. We are here to address the human situation. The chamber's lights flickered. Every screen simultaneously displayed a countdown timer. What is the meaning of this? The science minister squawked. Just a little presentation, Commander Blackwood's voice echoed through the chamber. Consider it a history lesson. The entire chamber transformed. Suddenly, we were floating in space, watching a perfect recreation of that fateful council meeting 50 years ago. I saw myself, younger and more naive, sitting quietly while the council dismissed humanity's plea for help. Remember this day? Blackwood asked, materializing in the center of the chamber. She was accompanied by Director Thorne, General Price, and Professor Sullivan. We do. Every single second of it. This is outrageous. Van Era's tentacles coiled in agitation. Guards. Oh, the guards are currently enjoying an all-expenses-paid vacation in the Andromeda Galaxy. General Price mentioned casually. Don't worry, we'll bring them back. Eventually. The scene changed, showing humanity's underground preparations before the asteroid hit. The Council watched in stunned silence as humans worked tirelessly, building their sanctuaries, developing new technologies, all while the Federation abandoned them. Fascinating survival instinct, the science minister muttered, his scientific curiosity overtaking his fear. Oh, this isn't about survival, Director Thorne corrected him. This is about proving you wrong. All of you. The chamber shifted again. Now we were surrounded by displays of current human technology. Quantum phase drives, dimensional engineering, energy production that made our best systems look like children's toys. Impossible, Trade Minister Bax Ohl burbled. You were primitive. We were motivated, Professor Sullivan countered. Nothing drives innovation quite like spite and a deadline. Speaking of which, the displays changed to show the missing Federation outposts. They hadn't been destroyed, they'd been relocated to a pocket dimension where time moved differently. The inhabitants had experienced what felt like a 15-minute tea party. You see, Blackwood explained, pacing the chamber, we could have revealed ourselves immediately after developing these technologies. We could have attacked, conquered, destroyed. She paused for effect. But we're not you. What do you want? Venara asked, her voice barely a whisper. Want? Blackwood laughed. We want to update your policies on emerging species. We want to ensure no other civilization faces what we faced. And she grinned wickedly. We want to show you something really cool. The chamber walls vanished, revealing that the entire council building had been quantum shifted to Earth orbit. Below us, the planet pulsed with energy patterns that defied description. Admiral Krell Blackwood turned to me. Would you like to share your findings from your investigation? I stood, feeling every eye in the chamber on me. After extensive study of human capabilities, I can confirm they have achieved technological advancement beyond our current classification system. They have mastered physics we thought impossible, developed technologies we never imagined, and I paused, allowing myself a small smile. They have done it all while maintaining an absolutely ridiculous sense of humor. This is a violation of council authority, one of the minor ministers shouted. Actually, Professor Sullivan interjected, according to subsection 7, paragraph 12 of the Protection of Emerging Species Act, the same one you used to deny us help, any species that surpasses Federation technology levels automatically qualifies for a council seat. And by our calculations, we surpassed you about 49 years ago. 49 years, 3 months, and 17 days, Director Thorne added. We celebrated with cake. The council erupted in chaos. Some demanded immediate military action, causing the humans to laugh. Others called for diplomatic negotiations, making them laugh harder. And one suggested pretending this never happened and going home, which made them laugh so hard the quantum anomalies started hiccuping again. Here's how this is going to work, Blackwood announced, her voice cutting through the chaos. Humanity will take its seat on the council. We will oversee the reformation of your emerging species protocols. And she grinned. We're going to teach you how to have fun with science. Fun with science? The science minister looked terrified. Oh yes, General Price nodded. First lesson, quantum physics through interpretive dance. The space squids are very excited to demonstrate. Right on cue, a group of quantum-enhanced space squids appeared outside the chamber windows, beginning an elaborate performance that somehow explained string theory through synchronized swimming. All those in favor of accepting humanity's terms, I asked, standing up. The vote was unanimous. Amazing how persuasive quantum physics could be when demonstrated by dancing space squids. Excellent, Blackwood clapped her hands. Now, who's ready for their first lesson in dimensional engineering? Don't worry about taking notes, we've already quantum entangled the knowledge directly into your education centers. As the council members were led away for their first taste of human scientific education, I approached Blackwood. You planned this from the beginning, didn't you? Admiral, she smiled, we planned this 50 years ago. The real question is, are you ready to learn how to quantum tunnel? I looked at my former council colleagues, now watching in awe as Professor Sullivan explained parallel universes using nothing but a coffee cup and interpretive juggling. You know what I said, my antennae perking up with interest. I think I am. Behind us, the space squids finished their performance with a flourish that accidentally created 3 new dimensions and a small black hole that smelled like cinnamon. 1 year later. You know you're living in interesting times when your morning commute involves quantum tunneling through 17 dimensions just to get to the office. The new Galactic Council headquarters hovers in a pocket dimension somewhere between Earth and everywhere else, a testament to human architectural imagination. I adjusted my new quantum-enhanced uniform, still getting used to existing in multiple probability states at once. The morning briefing was about to start, and I didn't want to be late. Last week, someone showed up 10 minutes after the meeting began and found themselves quantum shifted into a remake of ancient human entertainment called Dancing with the Stars. The council chamber was unrecognizable from its former stuffy self. Gone were the uncomfortable chairs, replaced with quantum ergonomic seating that adapted to any species. Even Trade Minister Baxul's containment field had been upgraded to include a built-in espresso machine. Good morning everyone, Commander Blackwood, now head of interspecies scientific development, greeted us. Progress reports, please. The science minister, his beak now permanently stained with coffee, raised a trembling appendage. The quantum physics education program is proceeding as planned, though we're still trying to get the space squids to stop creating temporary parallel universes during their lunch breaks. They're just enthusiastic, Professor Sullivan shrugged, while his coffee cup universe elected its first president. And the Emerging Species Initiative, Blackwood asked. Director Thorne pulled up a holographic display. We've identified 37 developing civilizations that the old council ignored. We're implementing the new protection protocols now. Excellent. And how's our former High Counselor enjoying her new position? Everyone turned to look at Venara, who was teaching basic quantum mechanics to a group of excited young aliens. Her tentacles, now permanently tied in probability knots, twitched as she explained wave-particle duality using interpretive tentacle dancing. She's adapting, I reported, trying not to laugh, though she's still having trouble with the concept of quantum humor. Well, she has plenty of time to learn, General Price grinned. Speaking of learning, how are those terraforming projects coming along? Mars is now a tropical paradise, someone reported, though we're still trying to convince the quantum-enhanced palm trees to stop teleporting themselves around the planet whenever they get bored. The changes in the past year had been staggering. Human innovation had transformed galactic society. Every species was advancing, learning, growing. Even the most conservative council members had to admit things were better, though some of them made this admission while being quantum shifted through a series of increasingly improbable dance routines. Oh, and Admiral Krell Tix Blackwood turned to me, her eyes twinkling. About that pizza you were curious about 50 years ago. A slice of pizza materialized in front of me, perfectly heated and smelling divine. We've quantum enhanced it, of course, she added. Each bite tastes like a different flavor from across the galaxy. Just don't eat it too quickly, or you might accidentally taste colors that don't exist yet. As I took my first bite, experiencing a flavor explosion that temporarily made me understand the meaning of life, I reflected on how far we'd come. The Federation had left humanity to die, and instead, they'd come back to teach us how to live. The meeting concluded with the usual chaos, several quantum anomalies performing a synchronized dance number, a few temporary violations of the laws of physics, and at least one coffee cup universe declaring independence. As I prepared to head back to my office, Blackwood stopped me. By the way, Admiral, remember that asteroid from 50 years ago? Of course. The one that was supposed to destroy Earth. She grinned. Funny story about that. Turns out it wasn't natural at all. We recently discovered it was artificially sent by a highly advanced species, one that apparently wanted to test how civilizations would respond to extinction-level events. My antennae went rigid. You mean? Yep, they've been watching us this whole time. And guess what? They want to make contact. Apparently our response was, and I quote, highly entertaining. As if on cue, a message appeared in the center of the chamber, written in quantum fire. Congratulations, you passed the test. Ready for the advanced course? I looked at Blackwood, who was already grinning like a quantum cat that got the cream. "Well," she said, cracking her knuckles, "looks like Spite and quantum physics are about to go galactic. Want to help us show off again?" I took another bite of my reality-bending pizza and smiled. Some lessons, it seems, never get old.